So I'm not sure if an A.J. Brown trade is going to happen this offseason, but I do feel like an A.J. Brown trade request is inevitable, and I'll tell you why coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. And thanks so much for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. Another week means another cryptic, not even cryptic this time, but another dramatic comment, social media post, however you want to describe it, another A.J. Brown drama-filled story surrounding this football team, despite a really impressive and massive win for this team in Lambeau against the Green Bay Packers to get to 7-2 and really start to close in on the #1 seed in the NFC. But yet this team just cannot escape this storyline, this drama in the 2025 season. And although I don't think it will be enough for the Eagles to be like, get A.J. Brown out of here next offseason, we have to trade this player to another football team. I think A.J. Brown in the locker room is a good teammate. I think Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni understand the value of having A.J. Brown on this football team, how crucial he is in keeping the championship window open, what the dead cap ramifications would do to this team if they did have to trade him away. I'm not predicting a trade, but hearing A.J. Brown talk yet again, this time on a Twitch stream with gaming influencer, whatever you want to call them. I sounded like 80 years old trying to describe a Twitch streamer there, so I apologize to my listeners under the age of 50 and my viewers. But Brown talked about being, quote, in a shit show this season. I think he's talking about the season he's having and all the trade rumors surrounding him. Talked about how he's struggling outside of his family life, again referring to, I think, what's going on with the Eagles, and then paused the video game he's playing Madden with this streamer, shows his numbers, and says the Madden highlights are the only football highlights that he's currently getting. So Brown clearly remains unhappy with his role in this Eagles offense, and I really do think when you look at the buildup of the last 3 seasons of this story, that an A.J. Brown trade request is coming. Like, I do feel like it is inevitable because I don't see a resolution to this. Yes, Kevin Patullo has done a miserable job this year game planning A.J. Brown the football. Like, finding a way to get A.J. Brown the ball. He has not been able to do it, and it's unbelievable how difficult it seems for a play caller to get a top 3 receiver the ball. It's not just on Patullo, though. Jalen Hurts, I feel like, has missed him a lot of times when he is open down the field, over the middle, along the sidelines. Like, they have not been able to get on the same page. So, yeah, the Eagles could definitely do things to get A.J. Brown more consistently involved. Over his first 3 seasons with the Birds, he's had over 1,400 yards twice and over 1,000 yards another time. So, clearly right now on a 700 to 800 yard pace, like, they are failing Brown. And I do think he has every right to be frustrated with the role that he's in so far this year. I mean, 3 targets in such a big game in Lambeau when there's little to no separation against that Packers defense is definitely frustrating. But I don't know if there will ever be a time where A.J. Brown is fully satisfied, because we're kind of at a crossroads with the philosophy of this football team. I think we're at a war between what Brown wants this team to look like and what the team is going to embrace. A.J. Brown, and he has said it since the Super Bowl, that he wants this offense to evolve. He wants this offense to let their killers kill. He wants to be in an aggressive, pass-first offense that runs through him. He wants to be the feature, focal point of the offense, of the passing game specifically. But overall, like, he wants to be the featured guy over Saquon, over Devontae Smith, like he was in 2022 and in 2023. He mentioned how the Super Bowl, like, wasn't what he thought it would be, that mastering his craft is what is most important to him. So we knew heading into the season, like, this could happen. The Eagles on the other side of this, on the other end, are built so religiously to only care about winning at all costs, winning regardless of your individual goals and aspirations. What's the quote that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have used all year in mic'd up segments, locker room videos, interviews? Contribution over credit. All this team that is mostly built up of Alabama and Georgia players, all this team cares about, it's very Patriot way like right now. All they care about is winning at all costs. Jalen Hurts could win a game 3-0 or 10-7 like he did in Green Bay and be equally as happy as satisfied as he would be if they won 41-33. Like, that's just who Jalen Hurts is. That's who Nick Sirianni is. That's what this team is embracing. A.J. Brown, that's not enough for him. Winning at all costs, winning no matter what, is not enough for him. He has individual goals that he is not willing to sacrifice, that if he doesn't meet those, or if he's not contributing to the wins, it's not going to be okay for him. He mentioned in a Super Bowl where he had almost 100 yards and a touchdown, how it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. It didn't bring him the fulfillment that he thought it would. And so we're at a crossroads because I don't think they're going to go back to who they were in 2022 and the first half of 2023 when A.J. Brown set a record for most games in a row, 6 games in a row, where he had at least 125 receiving yards or more. They're not going to go back to that football team anytime soon. Right now, they are a run-first offense that leans on Saquon Barkley. They really prioritize not turning the football over, so I don't want to call them conservative, but they're definitely not as aggressive force-feeding the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith now and in 2024 as they were those first 2 years with this core intact. And I don't think they're going to change that because, again, yes, they need to do better when they throw the ball of getting it to Brown and being more efficient, of not being so conservative. But they're not going to change their whole philosophy about running the football more than passing, about really focusing on not turning the ball over because it won them a championship last year. And right now, even with the ebbs and flows of the offense, they're 7-2. So, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, what's going to budge? I don't think it's enough for the Eagles to trade Brown away if he continues to do this on social media, although clearly they're getting sick of it. Nick Sirianni got very frustrated in his press conference today, and if they have to keep speaking for AJ over and over again, especially now when it's resulting in wins, and he's still doing it, when he's still talking negatively after wins, that's a problem. Like, that is everything opposite of what this team stands for right now. So maybe it leads to them being sick of it. Maybe they get Stephon Diggs like fatigue as the Buffalo Bills did with A.J. Brown, but I don't think so. I think A.J. Brown is going to want out. I really think that's the case because I don't think things are going to change in an offense that runs more than anybody in the NFL, and an offense that has 3 other really talented elite weapons that are the best of the best at their position, and Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts running the football. There's going to be more ebbs and flows where there's games Brown is not as involved as he wants. I don't know if in Philadelphia, the way this organization is structured, with the inconsistency they're always going to have at play caller, with the kind of quarterback that they have, with all the weapons and the run-first mentality, even if they do clean up the awful play calling and game planning for AJ that we've seen this year, and Jalen does a better job of getting him the football, I don't think it'll ever be enough for him. And I think he has come to this eureka-like moment after the Super Bowl of what's important to him. And look, I don't blame him. I really don't. I get it. Players don't only want to win. Nobody even, maybe Jalen Hurts because he's a psychopath, but even Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert have individual goals that they aspire to meet. And if they are not involved at all week after week after week, winning at all costs does not fix everything. It doesn't solve everything. Like, players play for more than just wins and losses, right? But A.J. Brown specifically, it feels like, has kind of made up his mind about what he wants in an offense, what he wants his role to be while he's still in his prime, especially after getting a Super Bowl. He's able to check that off the list, and I understand it. What I don't understand, though, is the way he handles it, because Devontae Smith has kind of had to play second fiddle to A.J. Brown for years now, and he's never done this. Dallas Goedert has been the third fiddle to those two, and he's never done this. They can't continue to deal with this week after week if he's not involved, especially when you're winning these football games. Like, maybe they are okay with dealing with that as long as A.J. Brown's in Philadelphia and he's not yelling at the quarterback on the sidelines and causing a scene in the locker room. Maybe they are totally cool with it, but I don't think AJ is going to be cool with this, the way the offense works right now long term. And I think maybe it won't result in a trade, but it will result in a trade request if things are not turned around for him individually down the stretch of this season. I do think, though, that eventually would probably result in a trade because Howie Roseman is not going to have an unhappy, disgruntled player like this for years and years under a contract extension. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's frustrating this drama continues when they're 7-2, but that's the reality of who the Eagles are right now and what they're dealing with A.J. Brown, and I really do expect him to request a trade. I don't know if it'll amount to anything in the offseason, but I think that's coming. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on X at DBLOE and at LockedOnBirds. Coming up next, stock up after a big win against the Packers. Who shined the brightest on both sides of the ball? Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Betterhelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier. Trust me, I've been going through it the last week, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits. Reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. I've noticed that just simply talking things through, even for a few minutes, really helps clear my head and get me back on track. Therapy isn't just for when things are falling apart. It's about staying balanced and growing through the tough seasons. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOn, because taking that next step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Thanks as always for making now the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Stock up coming up right here on Locked On Eagles after a big time 10-7 win over the Green Bay Packers. Again, the offense did not really do much for the majority of that game to take advantage, but the Eagles defense really carried the way. And it was a defensive slobber knocker. It was a rock fight in Lambeau. It was a playoff atmosphere kind of game. Reminded me a lot of last year's matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, where just nothing would give until it did in the fourth quarter. The more clutch teams stepped up, and that tends to be most weeks the Philadelphia Eagles. So stock up's going to include a lot of defensive players, but we got to start with Devontae Smith. We started the show talking about the A.J. Brown drama, but behind all of that drama is a career season, an awesome year to celebrate Devontae Smith. How clutch was that touchdown, high pointing the football in the end zone, mossing the cornerback for the game-winning touchdown. Devontae has been unbelievable this year. One of the best downfield receivers, one of the best receivers on third down, the best receiver this year in the fourth quarter. I think he's having an all-pro season, and it's so good to see him doing this. I really feel like, A.J. Brown, again, I feel like he has a right to be frustrated so far this season, but Devontae Smith has had a right to be frustrated for 3 years now. He has allowed A.J. Brown to eat for years as the Batman to his Robin, and he never said anything. He was labeled as a wide receiver too, took a severely underpaid contract to stay with the Eagles, and saw inconsistent targets despite this guy being a former Heisman winner, an all-pro talent. I think a true wide receiver one that if he got the volume of a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson or a Puka Nacua Like if he was in that Rams offense or Cincinnati or Minnesota or just a team that force-fed him the football, even in Philadelphia in 2022, 2023, 2024, if he was the go-to guy and not A.J. Brown, he would post the same numbers as those guys, and he wouldn't be seen as a wide receiver too. But because of these unique circumstances, with this loaded team, with A.J. Brown in front of you and a run-first offensive mentality, he's kind of taken a back seat and had his reputation almost lowered, his money, but you've never heard him say anything. Like, he's been such the consummate pro, and while it doesn't mean he hasn't been frustrated at times like A.J. Brown, I think he's handled everything the right way. He's handled things in-house, and I love seeing that kind of guy that's been a staple of this core. He was the first draft pick of this era in 2021. I love seeing him get his. To finally have his year in the NFL, his all-pro wide receiver one season, and man, has it come at a crucial time, because Devontae, even when the passing attack has just looked inept this year, Smitty's the one that makes the big play. He's the one that makes the big play against the Chiefs. He's the one trying to keep them from blowing that game against the Denver Broncos. He's the one making the game-winning catch against the Packers. He's the one that when A.J. Brown goes down, carries the majority of the load in the passing game against the New York Giants, or in a gotta-have-it moment in the second half against the Vikings, scores a 79-yard touchdown. Like, Smitty has been unbelievable this year as a separator, as a contested catch guy, when it comes to hands, physicality, run after the catch ability. He's been everything for you. He's been the most clutch player at his position in football. Stock up to Devontae Smith. I'm really glad he's getting his, because again, he's taken a backseat for years when he had every right to want a bigger role. Devontae Smith would be more justified in acting and handling things as poorly as A.J. Brown has, but he hasn't. And that's just, again, a testament to who he is and who he's always been. I mean, he's used to this, though. He used to play at Alabama with, Jerry Jeudy and, Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle. So it's not surprising that he is who he is, especially being coached by Nick Saban. Stock up too as well, the defensive line, the four-man pass rush specifically took over that game for the Eagles. And I said this on a YouTube short yesterday, that if the Eagles can get pressure like that, if they can hit home with 4 the rest of the way, and they don't need to rely on blitzing as much as they did the first 8 weeks of the season, just give this team the Lombardi Trophy again. If they can start to look like the 2024 Super Bowl defensive line that just dismantled the Chiefs with a 4-man pass rush, if they look like that unit that just did that against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night, they're winning another Super Bowl. I mean, that was an unbelievable performance. Jalen Phillips, of course, the new guy, comes in after getting traded to the Eagles from Miami last week, has 8 pressures, 5 defensive stops, a fumble recovery in the first half, the game-winning turnover on Josh Jacobs on 4th and 1. He was unbelievable. Jalix Hunt had a sack and 2 tackles for a loss. In the last 3 games now, Jalix Hunt has a pick 6 and 2 sacks. As the third guy in this rotation now, I mean, that's a luxury. Nolan Smith comes back after missing a month and a half, being put on injured reserve, has a sack, has a big pressure on the final drive on Jordan Love, was very good against the run, setting the edge. Moro Ajoma and Jalen Carter completely dictated terms on the interior. They wrecked that ball game. Suddenly, you are, 7 to 8 deep on your defensive line. Josh Uche didn't even play in this game. And by the way, I do hope he plays more than Brandon Graham moving forward, or at least it's an even split. Didn't love that BG came in right away and played ahead of Uche, who's been, to me, really good this year. But you look at those 5 guys on the edge, you look at Ajoma, Carter, and Jordan Davis on the interior. Like, they have 8 legit guys that can get to the quarterback. I still like the timely blitzes, like Nakobe Dean's blitz on the final drive of the first half, getting that strip sack was massive. You can use Jahad Campbell, Bond, Dean. Those guys are really good at pressuring the quarterback and affecting the passing game. But now that they don't have to do that, you already had a top 5 passing defense, especially the secondary. And now you can have like 7 guys in the backfield in coverage. that gives a lot of optionality, a lot of flexibility for Vic Fangio to be creative. So stock up to the 4-man pass rush, and stock up as well to linebacker Nakobe Dean, who I just mentioned with that big strip sack at the end of the first quarter. He has been an unbelievable blitzer in these last 3 games since he came back from injury. Open field tackling has been superb from Nakobe. He was the number 1 overall graded player for the Eagles against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, somebody is going to give this guy a bag in the offseason. It's unfortunately not going to be the Eagles, at least I don't think, after paying Bond last year, drafting Jihad Campbell in the first round. Like, they're just not going to pay Dean. But somebody's going to give him a big contract, and somebody's going to get a really good player. This guy affects the game in so many ways. He's a great leader, play caller, great against the run, open field tackler. He just never misses tackles. He is such a good blitzing linebacker, too. Dean is such a good player, and the fact that he is now one of 3, 4 great inside linebacker options on your defense, we've said it before in the show, but it feels like strange territory as an Eagles fan. But again, the number 1 overall graded player for the Eagles against Green Bay was Nakobe, and it was kind of cool to see everything come full circle for him after getting injured in that first playoff game last year against the Packers when he was wrecking that first half. To see him get to take over that game this year in Lambeau and finish the job, like, that was really cool. And I think he has a really important role coming up against a Lions offense that leans on run after the catch ability and using the middle of the field and spacing so much. Dean is going to be really important moving forward. By the way, I don't think Jihad Campbell's getting his job back. And I think the rotation that was kind of like 65-35, 60-40 between Dean and Campbell on Monday night, I think you're going to see that reduced. Like, I think it's going to start to be Dean's show, and you'll see Campbell in as a rotating player playing like 25 to 30% of the snaps. But I think this is Nakobe Dean's job the rest of the way. Campbell's the future at this spot. I still wish they would feature him a little bit more, but Dean's been playing too well to keep off the field. And then, of course, one more stock up to Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, Q was unbelievable against the Packers. It wasn't like Green Bay had some elite wide receiver that Q had to shadow, but he made a couple unbelievable stops in the fourth quarter. His mirroring ability, I think it's the best in football right now, over even the best of the best, like Pat Surtain, Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley. Those guys have certain strengths that make them top 5 players at this position. But when it comes to just specifically like mirroring the movement of a wide receiver at the line of scrimmage or at the break point when they get out of their release, running a route, nobody is in a player's hip pocket more than Quinyon Mitchell. Like it's unbelievable that at one point people thought this guy couldn't play man coverage. He was so good against the Packers. And outside of now, I believe it's Surtain, outside of Pat Surtain, nobody has allowed less separation per coverage snap than Quinyon Mitchell in all of football. And he was, again, I said it on the show yesterday, he's the MVP of this defense, and he came up at a massive spot against the Packers. Even that downfield stop on Christian Watson, who's a underrated deep threat, that was really nice as well. Just start getting some interceptions, and this guy is the best cornerback in football. The Eagles might have the best cornerback in football. Thank you, football gods. It feels so good to be able to say that. All right, stock down coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. We'll talk about a little bit Kevin Patullo. How does he get this offense back on track? Can he? Like, does he even have the answers? We'll get into it next. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs. Every detail matters. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. Guys, today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Right now, the Philadelphia 76ers look watchable and fun. Watching them build for the future with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. I've been betting on their points for totals pretty much every single game on FanDuel. And even, by the way, if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel's live bets on everything from who will score next to, fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a much bigger shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving away new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, we're wrapping up this Wednesday edition of Locked On Eagles. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast for 7 shows a week at this point. 5 solo shows from yours truly, 2 live squad shows during the week. We've got post-game shows as well. After each and every Eagles game, you can find us wherever you get your audio pods and on YouTube as well. Thanks as always for making us your first listen each and every day. Time for stock down after a close, nerve-wracking but massive win over the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. 10-7 was the final, and I think I really just want to highlight for negatives. Kevin Patullo, it's not just that he didn't get A.J. Brown involved, because there were some plays that were schemed at A.J. Brown, and he was open and Jalen just didn't find him, or Devontae ends up getting open on a play designed for A.J. Brown. There's a lot that goes into it, getting the ball to a player. It's not just on Patullo, although there's things I would do to try to get AJ involved more. Short plays, quick passing, comeback routes, these mesh concepts, more crossers, the screen game, use him in the slot more. Just give him opportunities one-on-one, contested catches, back shoulder plays. There's just not enough of that kind of stuff where you really make getting the ball to Brown a priority. But it's not just that Patullo's stocked down right now. I thought he looked just completely lost as a play caller against Green Bay. And look, it's a cold game. Jalen normally isn't a great passer in cold weather environments. That's a really good defense they played. But to completely abandon your under center offense that looked so good against Minnesota and New York was very frustrating to watch. To see them just go back into shotgun, draw plays on 2nd and 10, 3rd and 14, the cowards draw returns. That was kind of frustrating to me. The conservative approach came back. Just felt like it was the same plays over and over again. The RPO to Dallas Goedert, which, it is a bread and butter play for Jalen Hurts, and it converted a couple third downs early on in the game. But it just felt like when things weren't working again, there weren't a lot of options, or he didn't go back to things that have worked this year to kickstart the offense, like tempo, spread things out, empty set, go back under center, play action rollouts. Use the screen game again. There were times that you saw that from Patullo in the first quarter, but it was just too few and far between, where the majority of the time they were just status quo, kind of doing back to what they normally do, and it didn't work. So I think the stock is definitely down for Kevin Patullo, and again, figure it out. You have such a talented, historically great offense. Even with the weather and the defense they were playing, that should never happen. The Eagles offense should never look like that. And it's, again, not always on just Patullo. It's on Nick Sirianni. It's on Jalen Hurts. It's on A.J. Brown to separate and the offensive line to block better. But Patullo, watching that game plan, watching some of the decisions force-feeding the ball to Will Shipley and the shotgun-heavy plays, the lack of creativity, abandoning the under-center looks, no up-tempo, no empty set. I don't know. It felt very vanilla and very conservative again, like it did the majority of the, first 6 games of the year. And that's got to change against the Detroit Lions. This is a massive, massive matchup coming up, and we will dive into it deep tomorrow. Crossover Thursday with Matt Derry of Locked On Lions, and a Friday show coming up for you as well. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles wherever you get the show. And thanks as always for making us your first listen each and every day. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.